3 years ago, Genshin revealed all 12 Harbingers in a special video. One character who caught everyone's attention, and is the thumbnail for the video right now as we speak, is Columbina, the one known as the Damselette. Now in 2025, she has made her official debut, and has been met with a wave of negativity. Why? How did she go from a character that everybody was so hyped to seeing, to a character everyone seemed to roll their eyes at? This is a video going over everything, and why I think this hate comes from a total misunderstanding of Columbina's character. Since Columbina's first reveal, we got a video that I think has done irreparable damage to the community. No matter how well animated it is, it caused many people to buy into this existing idea of what Columbina was going to be. Of course, I'm not saying the video is the only reason Columbina is predicted by all of the community to be an evil angel-like figure. The voice dialogue from Tartaglia to most people supported their argument, and Wanderer did not help either. However, I think we should stop and take a look back on the portrayals of Columbina. Listening to all the voice lines they used as evidence, then I think you'll realize that the Columbina we have now never changed from the Columbina we had 3 years ago. I think the main argument used is the line from Tartaglia concerning Columbina. In this voice line, he states that while he wants to fight pretty much everyone in the Fatui, Columbina, for some reason, doesn't make him want to fight. And the fact that he doesn't understand why she's the third Harbinger, and for a while, yeah, it seemed pretty cut and dry. Columbina was so eerie to the point that battle-hungry Tartaglia doesn't even wish to fight her, and that we should stay away from her. However, I think Nod Krai really fills in the blanks of knowledge that we didn't have prior to that, which completely changes these voice lines and how they paint Columbina. The easiest part of this quote to explain is why Tartaglia didn't understand why Columbina was rank 3. Columbina was weird in the eyes of Tartaglia. Unlike him, Columbina was never sent on missions, but rather spending her time wandering the halls and singing to herself constantly. Never once did Columbina ever show her strength, which easily would make Child question why someone so timid and unreactive would be so high in the ranks. The odd feeling Child gets is either being unnerved by the weirdness of her actions to constantly sing to herself, or it's just the fact that she's getting rejected by Tayvat itself. It could be either of the two. A lot of Wanderer's disturbing voice lines about Columbina can be answered in the same way. Nod Krai gives us answers that we just didn't have back then. Wanderer calls Columbina unfeeling yet naive and innocent. Nod Krai tells us two things to explain this voice line. 1. We knew Columbina was basically sick of people at the time, as she sees everyone as just wanting to gain something and use her. And 2, because she was focused on going back to the moon, where she thought she belonged. That was all she could really focus on at the time, so of course she's detached. A lot of the evidence people use to say Columbina was meant to be creepy are just voice lines that lacked the missing context. Now, if you want my little theory or insight on this, I think that when Nod Krai was being written, Columbina wasn't being rewritten, but being written for the first time. It's not a secret that many authors leave sprinkles of characters that they have yet to write. One Piece does this with Emu, Kaido, and Roger. Hakari was name-dropped early on in JJK but didn't appear until the Culling Games arc, and even someone like the Tsaritsa falls under this category as well. I theorize that Columbina was this type of character, and that Nod Krai was the first time they focused on actually writing her character and setting it in stone. Could they have experimented with a creepy Columbina? I believe they did once, but the choice landed on a distant, hollow-feeling Columbina instead, which is why these voice lines had very little information to go on, and can insinuate both a creepy undertone and foreshadowing of the Columbina we have now. Also, that doesn't include the fact of the whole dove thing. Like, Columbina's more about a dove instead of angels. Like, I get people wanted the angel thing, but like, it's more about doves. Even the people in the community who overlooked the totally fan-made and never confirmed Angel Columbina version, many people have this perspective that Columbina is only waifu bait for Aether, and that she's just a pretty girl. And for a single scene, I think they're right, but only using that one scene to label Columbina waifu bait for Aether is just stupid to me. Funnily enough, the exact thing that Seat Lolly suffered in Natlin. When we first meet Columbina, she's extremely quiet and very reserved. When she does speak, it's in short bursts. However, one thing that she keeps asking us whenever we do show up is about exchange. When we give her food, she asks what we want in return, and then gets confused when the Traveler and Paimon don't want anything. As I said in my first blind review on Nod Krai, Columbina's story is about identity and where home really is. Columbina was born with the Frostmoon Scorns, and since then was worshipped as a goddess, where in exchange for food and shelter from the Scorns, she would have to use more and more of her power to solve issues for others. After years and years of being used, Columbina left, which is when she joined the Fatui. But all she found was the same old story. Stay for shelter, but in turn get used. What these two events show Columbina is that, to the world, she's merely a battery to be drained for their own gain. Humans are selfish. They always need and want something, and all aid given to her is laced with malice intent. Columbina's past works extremely well because it tells the audience exactly why Columbina is so detached, why she is so on guard around people, and 6.2 excellently acts to tear down these beliefs Columbina holds. Columbina's name throughout Lunar 1 to 3 is a way to show how Columbina doesn't have an identity right now. A name is given to a person when they are born. Their name represents their identity and existence as a person. All gain a name at birth, from humans to even puppets. But Columbina has names, but all are given to her out of the desire to use her. The Damselette, Kutar. They all taste like ash on her tongue because they aren't names given to Columbina because they genuinely care for her. The fact that Columbina doesn't have a name and rather only titles shows how everyone saw her as the moon goddess. Even the fact she doesn't even know what to call herself shows us how Columbina feels fractured and how she doesn't even understand herself. She doesn't tell Traveler what specific name to use because she doesn't have an identity to give them. Her identity is whatever the person in front of her decides it is. As other adventurers has told us over and over, Archons feel. They are as human as all the other mortals that roam the earth, especially with characters like Farina, Ai, and Nahida. Because of this, I doubt Columbina ever thought anyone would rescue her. But as she follows alongside the Traveler and the Nod Krai cast, she's surprised to find them so diligently at work to try save Columbina from disappearing forever. Unlike times before, Columbina is being saved not because the Nod Krai cast wants something from her, but because they have a gift to give her. She can literally view everyone, but they cannot. They aren't doing it because they know Columbina can see them, but rather because deep down, they all care about her safety because they like Columbina, not the Damselette, not the Moon Maiden, but Hypo Selenia.
결국 늦은 건가? 이름을 알려줄 수 있을까? 이름... 내 이름은... 콜롬비나! 콜롬비나, 거기 있어? 콜롬비나, 이건 네가 나에게 처음으로 알려준 이름이자 내가 널 불러온 이름이야. 콜롬비나. 좋은 이름이라고 생각해. 이 이름은 너와 나의 기억과 친구들의 기억 속에 남아있어. 너도 이 이름이 좋다면 나 찾았어? 좋아. 앞으로도 그렇게 불러줘. 내 이름은 콜롬비나 하이포셀레니아.
The moment where Columbina finally says her name means she's finally grasped her identity. Rather than living for the whims of others who wish to use her for nothing but their own gain, Columbina decides to continue pushing on to be with her friends, even if it's for a single night. Because Columbina herself also carries great memories of everyone, of how they supported her, how hard they fought for her, and how much struggle they had overcome just to make sure she continued on for just one more night. It's where Columbina could finally be seen as a person, learning that living might be worthwhile after all, and thinking about just how much she'll miss them when they're gone.
달이 우리와 이렇게 가까이 있었군. 세 달이 모두 모였으니 실험도 최종 단계로 넘어가 볼까. 세계의 이치, 생사와 시공 모두 나의 실패를 예견했었지.
Then, Columbina is pried back from this new reality and trapped in a physical cage. After all this time, finally being more than a tool, the Doctor makes his appearance and traps her, planning to literally use her as an artifact and replacement to gain the moon's power and ascend to godhood. The villains of Genshin lacked something more besides just tension, something that personally Raier didn't have. The Doctor, however, does. Columbina's wish is to be seen as her own person, to stand as something besides the Moon Maiden, and not to be used by everyone for their own selfish gain. The Doctor, however, is literally the embodiment of all that Columbina despises and wishes to stay out of. He traps her like an animal, he refers to her as the Moon, and only cares to use her as a way to ascend to the throne of godhood for power and control. The Doctor, as her final obstacle, firmly challenges Columbina's new beliefs and Sandaron's mentality. But let's leave that for the Lunar 4's blind review. I came out of this analysis of Columbina's character thinking the very same things I had with Seat Lolly. If you ship Aether X Columbina, by all means go for it, just keep it away from me. But just because one or two scenes put her in the waifu bait category for you doesn't make it so that she's just ship bait. Throughout Nod Krai, it's evident that the entire Nod Krai cast matters to Columbina's growth. Lauma, Nefer, Flynn's, Varaka, hell, I'd argue Sandaron plays a bigger role than Traveler does in any way. Rather than focusing entirely on a scene that you can just easily ignore, why don't you just focus what makes Columbina so captivating to me? Her beautiful story and amazing dynamics.